The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. It's nice to be back. We missed a couple of episodes recently because of all the traveling that the hosts are doing post All-Star. And yes, we are still four guys, again, in four different cities, but a little different this time since our last episode. We have Gino Rufino over there back in Metro Manila. Chris is in New York City. Brad this time is in Dallas, Texas, where he was covering the Mavericks and the Thunder game. And I am in Los Angeles. All right, fellas, it's nice to be back on the program. Let's get it going. Brad in Dallas, we'll go with you first. You have 12 minutes, and your quarter starts now. What's going on?
Sure, thanks, Mo. I actually left the Mavs Thunder game a little early so we could actually record this program. So I hope everyone out there appreciates the fact that I bailed on the Thunder with 3 minutes to go in the fourth, and the Dallas Mavericks forming a little bit of a comeback, but I guess they fell a little short, so not to worry there. But actually, I wanted to kick off this episode by talking a little bit about Kevin Durant. Big surprise. I'm referring to my favorite muse here, but well, the reason why I wanted to bring him up is because recently on ESPN, they were sort of doing a poll, top 5 players you'd like to build a franchise around. And both of the anchors who made these lists left Kevin Durant off their lists, which I thought was really, really surprising given everything that's about to happen with his free agency. And what really sort of caught me off guard was the fact that one of the hosts, and she should really know better. I don't want to call her out by name because I don't think she should get all this sort of Twitter flack. I'm sure she's got enough as it is. But she went as far as she did on national TV to actually say that Kevin Durant has no heart. She said he's heartless. He went on for a while about this and then basically was like, hey, that's just how I feel. The guy's got no heart. And I was like, wow, oh, my God. How can you possibly go on live TV, say this, and then still have a job? This is insane. So I haven't yet had a chance to actually float this with Kevin Durant. I know what his response is going to be. He's going to scoff and he's going to say, this is why, I hate the media. But so I basically wanted to ask you guys, is this even remotely accurate? And do you think Kevin Durant has a heart problem? Are you seeing any lack of effort, or are you seeing anything that would possibly indicate him not having heart right now here in the NBA?
First of all, it sounds like the worldwide leader needs some more ratings by making a statement like that. He does not have a heart problem whatsoever. Is he having a problem with the media this year? Yes. And it's been so much so that now he's not being considered in the top 5 players to build your franchise around. He has a unique set of skills like Liam Neeson and Taken. 50, 40, and 90 type of guy, and you don't build a franchise around him. He's got to be in the top 5. In fact, to think of it, it's like 5 on the cusp, most likely. It's a joke for us to even not consider that now. How quickly it's falling his stock in the media, that's a joke.
And Damian Lillard wasn't too happy about that quote as well. He went on a Twitter rant about it. So it's
right. So I'm not the only one who heard it.
You're
right?
not the only one.
Everyone heard it.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Maybe his heart, quote unquote heart, gets overshadowed by this massive heart and passion that what Russell Westbrook brings every single night. And maybe they kind of just associate heart with ferociousness and attitude and just that killer face that Russell Westbrook brings every single night, and just overshadows what Kevin Durant is doing this season. I mean, KD this year is not taking a step back in any part of his game. And again, maybe the only thing that they can kind of pinpoint at him is, if they're going to get him back for all the media hate, is talk about things outside of his game, like heart. or attitude or spoiled or
Right,
whatever
but
other word they want to throw.
What's interesting,
Kevin.
Mo, is that if there's a fractured relationship between him and the media, as there seems to be from time to time, it's not always, but occasionally something pops up and he kind of doesn't like it and he'll speak his mind about it. Like, I just don't see how ESPN thinks they're going to get a scoop or an exclusive when they're letting their anchors kind of spit this nonsense on their show. And then guys like Lillard are jumping in and saying, hang on, like, you can't do this. Like, this is nuts. Like, and again, it's the classic case of, and I'm going to reiterate this, throughout the whole season, it's that I dare these people to go to the locker room and say to the person's face, you've got no heart, because I guarantee I know what's going to happen.
Listen, the way that the networks are ran are just kind of like NBA teams these days. It's a superstar league. I mean, it's no longer just this person speaking for this network. This person is speaking for themselves. And kind of, as you see these reporters, that's why I don't like being blamed as, the media does this and the media says that. No, now with these are individual people now we're talking about that are trying to make a name for themselves, thinking that the louder that they are or the bolder the statement, the more it's going to equate. Or more absurd. The more it's going to equate for them, for their personal popularity and not really for the network anymore.
It's working. Well, we're talking about it. Their Twitter following goes up. Yeah. It's big news. They get the headlines. So why should they quit if this continues to work for them? Right. And it's the new media age. Mo, you talked about, maybe it's overshadowed by Westbrook and his ferociousness. Well, Michael Jordan had ferociousness, and Scottie Pippen, who quit in a playoff game once, he was never really questioned in his heart. Kobe had ferociousness, and Shaq, who came to some seasons out of shape, was never really questioned on his heart. Kevin Durant never did those things, and he's being questioned in his heart. The ferociousness, might be a factor, and if it is, it's because of today's media cycle and how everything is exacerbated, but I don't know how much of a big stock that is.
You look at the list that these ESPN analysts and anchors have, and you see Russell Westbrook in there. Am I correct,
right.
Brad?
No, absolutely, Gino, and that's kind of, I guess, why I had to bring this up. It's like they're putting Russ as someone they want to build a franchise around, but not KD, and to me, that was just mind-bogglingly stupid. And so you mentioned that obviously, Ross is on that list. Anthony Davis is on that list. Steph Curry's on that list. I think someone even put Draymond Green on that list. They had a KD, which I thought was also, again, like just a foolish move, because Draymond, is as amazing as he is not going to carry a franchise the way KD can, or at least proven he has. So
the lady who said that Durant has no heart put Draymond Green there.
Wow. There you go. There you go. So I have to question her very credibility about discussing the game of basketball, because it's almost like she's never even watched a game in her life to know exactly what these guys pour into it, how much love they have, how much dedication they have, and what it takes to perfect their craft. I guarantee you that she's not up at 6 a.m. like KD is, busting a sweat in the gym, working as hard as everybody else to kind of earn his team a championship. He hasn't flaked. He hasn't done what LeBron does and left his team, to try to win a championship somewhere else. He may still do that, but as it stands right now, he's doing the righteous thing. And I just think the question his heart is just kind of, I don't know, like me, I took it as a little insult, and I was like, man, I'm not even the dude who this is directed at. So
but that's because Kevin is just on their hit list, man, and that really is the only explanation for it. We see this happen with DeMarcus Cousins and say like Boogie has this problem with Charles Barkley, and Barkley would say things like that. He has no heart, he has no this, he has no that.
But Barkley played the NBA. I think Barkley's got a stage in which he can project his opinions.
Right, but Barkley is incorrect in that notion. Sure. I think what it is that these guys are on their hit list.
Does do silly things,
doing silly things
Durant
doesn't mean he's not
other
passionate.
than the media stuff. He doesn't really act out other than this media stuff. Boogie Cousins deserves it once in a while.
My point is these guys are on a hit list with some reporters, whether it be a Charles Barkley as a journalist, which he is right now, or this girl. I don't know if you brought her name up or not, but my thing is, if they don't like you,
I deliberately left her out because she's not getting any more shine.
Well, if they don't like you, they are going to come after you. And I think this is just a clear example, because you cannot say that Kevin Durant lacks anything right now when he's having, an MVP caliber type of season. Hey, listen, I play fantasy. Sometimes I'll bring it up. Kevin Durant is the second best player this year in fantasy basketball. That means something. Across the board, statistically, he is elite and among the top 3 in the NBA.
But Mo, do you think
he's top 4 of people you start your franchise with? It's Westbrook, it's Curry, it's Durant, it's James. And those 4 you wrap your franchise around if you had a pick. So him not being in the top 5 is a total joke.
But Mo, would you put KD in front of Draymond?
Oh, of course. No, listen.
Right.
Listen,
and I just wanted to get that out there.
No, Draymond's fantastic. KD is elite.
What is going on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about different planets right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, let's not go down the rabbit hole of trying to compare Draymond to KD, because they're really, it's a very, very, very shallow hole. So let's not even entertain that even for a second. But what I want to do here is, I'm sure you guys caught this. One person who people would like to build a franchise around, who finally stepped up and showed everybody that he basically has no ceiling and that he can carry basically 4 corpses into the playoffs, is Anthony Davis, who had a monster game recently with that 59 and 20. And man, watching the replay of that, watching the highlights of that, everything about it just screamed everything that we ever imagined Anthony Davis could be. I think he showed us in that game what his ceiling is, which is unlimited. It really is amazing. And did you guys happen to catch this performance? I mean, am I the only one here? It was
I watch every Anthony Davis game, and I loved it. And I love that he did it in regulation. I mean, it was, like I say, it was dominant. He was heat check after heat check and still hitting it. Again, my only knock with Davis is, can he stay healthy? Is he soft? Is he going to toughen up? I know that there's $23 million on the line here. Right. Well, there's $23 million on the line here for Anthony Davis for the rest of the season. He has to make an all-NBA team if he wants that money. So we're going to see him go nuts in the next few weeks. Plus, they're 6 games away or thereabouts away from a playoff spot. So, I mean, just kind of where they are right now, we're going to see the best of Anthony Davis at the end, as we get closer to the end of the season.
And you mentioned the
Isaiah Thomas used to say about Shaq when Shaq had a big game. Shaq brought his gangster game, and that's exactly what Anthony Davis brought on that 59-point performance. I will say this to Mo's point that if he's not the 5th person I'd build my franchise around, since we were speaking about it, because of the injury issue, I would be reluctant to choose him. Though if he continues to play like this and stays healthy, there's no question he's number 5 in my mind to build a franchise around.
And think about it. I mean, you mentioned the playoff push. I mean, with Marc Gasol out for the season, you expect the Grizz to fall out of the playoff hunt, and that means there's one more spot available in the Western Conference, and the Pelicans are not that. Mathematically, not out of it.
Mo might be correct after all.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
But again, they got to still. They lost Tyreek Evans, which is a big loss, I think, for them. And just as long as they get Eric Gordon back, again, we could talk about this maybe in my quarter when I bring up teams that are kind of, again, another fringe, playoff teams. But yeah, definitely, I think they've got a chance when you got a superstar of that caliber. Absolutely.
My only problem here is that if they happen to qualify for the playoffs, I don't want to see, obviously New Orleans get swept by Golden State in round 1. I'd rather see, Lillard and McCollum or some, maybe even Utah or someone kind of at least make the Warriors series a little more fun, because I feel really bad for Davis. He's basically playing with no one, as we saw in that game. But, oh, man, I would have given anything to have seen him hit 60. I think a 60-20 game would have just catapulted him to sort of a whole nother level.
God forbid it was only 59-20. Oh man, what's wrong with him?
Yeah, what a loser.
Yeah, I mean, cut that guy off. I mean, I think he's done here. If I was Anthony Davis, I'd pack up shop. So obviously not. But super incredible performance. I just obviously thought it was worth mentioning, worth highlighting. And I'm glad everyone caught it. If you haven't caught it, I really, really suggest you go and sit down and watch it, because it really is a performance for the ages. And it is a reminder that Anthony Davis, even though he doesn't get much love down there in Pelican Bay, I really think that he's really worth your time and attention. And man, if he's got more of those performances in him, then who knows, man? Like,
I really think he does. I mean,
times ahead.
Listen, monetarily, we are going to see performances that are just kind of off the charts with Anthony. I don't know if they're going to do 59-20 anymore by the end of the season, but with that kind of money dangling over his head, absolutely he's going to go.
He's got 23 million reasons to give a crap and put up big numbers.
That is a ton of coin that he needs.
From players out of it who have incentive down the stretch. Absolutely.
Sure. Any chance the network can offer us 23 million reasons to give a crap about this?
Another great thing about AD.
How's your eyebrow situation?
It's indisputable. He has heart.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Right, but here's my issue. Again, I know we got to go in a sec here, but my thing is if the Pelicans kind of fall and they lose a couple games here because of this kind of fragility that we see from Anthony Davis, I just worry that maybe management, maybe a guy like Gentry will say, okay, we're going to lessen your load now where there's no chance to make the playoffs, and we might get a chance at our fellow Louisiana, a superstar in collegiate basketball right now, Simmons, to get over here in Louisiana. So, I don't know, man. I hope they stay just enough in contention so we can see Davis go crazy. In the meantime, we got to take a break. When we come back, Gino, I think you have second quarter duties, and we will be hearing from you after this break. Back after this.
Cool.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers. Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import award?
I won Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not changing nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. We have Gino Rufino in Manila, Philippines with second quarter duties. Gino, you have now 12 minutes, and what are you going to do with it?
Thanks, Mo. I'm going to use my quarter to talk about Chris Bosh and the Miami Heat. Well, since the All-Star break, the Heat are 3-1, 32-24 overall, good enough for fourth in the Eastern Conference. Today, they lost a close one against the defending champions. Now, Bosh obviously did not play in this game, and he hasn't played since the All-Star break. And there's a little bit of a scare now with Chris Bosh. Remember last season he missed also about the same time. He had a blood clot issue with his health, and he had to miss the remainder of the season. Now, within the next 24 hours, according to Woj, he's going to be discussing his status with Heat officials. Now, Chris Bosh has been averaging 19.1 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, and was chosen for the midseason classic, but pulled out last minute due to a right calf strain. Now, since the injury seems to be pretty complicated, Bosh, I guess, it's a little bit of an issue now. So it's really possible that Bosh could miss the rest of the season. So, I mean, guys, how obviously he's a big piece to the puzzle for the Heat, despite the 3-1 record after the All-Star break. But right now they're currently fourth. If they lose a couple games, they could easily be eighth. I just want to pick your brains now. Like, if they do miss Chris Bosh for the rest of the season, what's the expectations for the Heat?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the blood clots. If it is blood clots or something that puts him at health, I hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it. We do a basketball podcast. I love basketball, but it's only basketball. Hopefully he shuts it down. Hopefully he really thinks about the next part of his life, and maybe it's a career-ending thing he has to think about. I don't know, because 2 years in a row, this is a tough situation. So are blood clots. As far as the Heat go, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to maintain. They're already fluctuating up and down with Bosh, who was an All-Star this year, dropping anywhere from 3 then to 8 we've seen, or 7. So without Bosh, because he's had such a superb season, one of his best in a while, it's going to be hard to maintain. Maybe they keep it AC, but I don't even see that, to be honest with you, with all the competitive teams.
Yeah, I mean, they're I don't even know if you can say they were kind of blessed with a team that seems to be playing rather well now recently. Luol Deng has stepped up his game. I think he's got 3-4 double-doubles in a row in Bosh's absence. Justice Winslow now moving into the starting lineup as well at the small forward position. So is this a playoff team? Possibly in the East, but really they're not going to do much. If anything, they'll hold on to dear life for a playoff spot there. Huge blow, but again, it's just basketball. He missed the final 30 games last season, and gosh, it really does look like he's not. It doesn't really look like it's good news. According to several reports, that physicians, including the organization, is really encouraging Chris to shut it down this season, just because, again, it's just not worth it. You're 31 years old, man, and this is life-threatening stuff. This is not just kind of like, I'm going to be limping for the rest of my life.
It's just basketball.
Right. He's got those championships. His legacy's not in doubt. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the sort of, I guess, early trendsetters in terms of big men being outside shooters. He's clearly the Heat's best player, so without him, I think they're 7th or 8th seed at best. They just don't quite have the talent to sort of keep pace with the East without Bosh there. And it's a sad story for Miami, but I think that maybe it's also a chance for Miami to look internally and reflect a little bit and sort of work out what life beyond Wade and Bosh actually looks like. I think maybe they've been a little too reliant on these guys. Obviously Whiteside's going to be a big part of their future. But I think now is a chance for them to really sort of look and work out exactly how they want to position this team. Because, if Bosh needs to shut it down, maybe he needs to shut it down for good. Maybe he's going to be on blood thinners for the rest of his life, and maybe it's a situation where it just isn't worth it, as we've discussed. Not everybody can be Dirk or Duncan or Kobe and play till they're 40. So at the end of the day, I think that Miami, has a number of hard questions that will need to be asked. Of course, we wish Bosch, a speedy recovery, and we want him out there. But yeah, I kind of think that, this may be a chance for Miami to sort of work out what their next move is. And Pat Riley, being the master of roster movements that he is, I'm sure he's going to be able to attract some mega free agent this offseason. Maybe they get Dwight Howard. Maybe they get somebody else.
Wow.
But there's definitely an opportunity for them to sort of realize what they've got couldn't last forever. And, this is kind of a good chance for them to see exactly who they have and what kind of production they can get out of these remaining pieces.
Kevin Durant coming to Miami, it sounds like, huh, Brad?
Well,
they may have a lot of cap space if something happens to Bosch and they have to, I guess they use that.
Right, he goes on injured reserve. Larry Johnson.
If it's a retirement situation for injured reserve. I also, to speak to Brad's point, I definitely, not just the distant future in the next couple of years, this year, he's got increased minutes, but I really want to see what Whiteside is all about. I know, Wade's hit or miss, but we talked about Dang and Dragic trying to do some things this year, but I want to see what Whiteside's really all about. He's had really a breakout season the last 2 years, increased minutes. I'd love to see him push it to the next level.
Yeah, he's been playing pretty well. I mean, today he had some, I guess, nice defensive possessions against Steph Curry. But look at the injuries the Heat suffered this season. Obviously, Bosch. You had Bino Udrih also, who's out for the season. Dragic fell. Green, Johnson, McRoberts, Stoudemire. All these guys have missed time for the Miami Heat. And it's amazing.
None of those guys are going to be carrying you to the championship round. So it's one of those cases that Miami, everyone went into this year thinking Miami is a top 3 team at best in the East. And the truth is they're probably 4th, maybe 5th. Maybe they're going to sink to 7th or 8th now because they don't have their best player. But, it's not like I think they're going to fall completely out of the playoff picture. There's enough talent there, I think, just to get them home.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And it's not like, we've seen Goran play a little bit better as well recently.
Right. And unless Luol Deng starts putting up Anthony Davis numbers, they're not going to, catch Toronto or Boston or even Cleveland. So,
so right now
it's like in mediocre land.
Well, they are. They're 32-25. The 8th seed Hornets are 29-27. So they're not that far away from each other.
Right.
Let's fast forward now, or let's move on to a next topic that I want to discuss. In the first part of the season, the first half of the season, Byron Scott of the LA Lakers was under heavy fire by the media, by Laker fans, by me, kind of holding back
Gino's parents too. I remember them getting on Twitter and blasting him as well.
The youth movement of the Lakers. He was kind of restricting the minutes. He was on a tight leash with D'Angelo Russell. Since then, and I do remember after the Spurs Lakers game in Staples Center. Since then, he said that he's gonna be giving Russell a little bit more chances in the second half of the season, and he's gonna be letting him loose a little bit more. And Russell back in the starting lineup has actually produced. In February, through 8 games, Russell has been averaging 13.3 points, 3.6 assists, 3.3 rebounds per game. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is also because last season we kind of saw him do this with Jordan Clarkson. Byron Scott held back Clarkson in the first half of the season, let him go in the second half, and all of a sudden Clarkson made it all to the all-rookie team. Now, I don't think D'Angelo will make it to the all-rookie team, but what are your thoughts about Scott kind of holding back the youth movement, and then I guess Russell kind of responding by his good play as of late?
Oh, look, it's good to see a rookie come in and obviously, produce when given the opportunity. Point guards, it usually takes them half a season to adjust, to the NBA play, the speed. Obviously they've got to learn a whole new offensive system. They've got to learn how to manage egos and find shots. And, they're playing against better defenders in every position, and it's harder to score and it's harder to do everything in the NBA. So when a rookie point guard actually plays well out of the gate, it's actually more of a, an anomaly rather than the standard. So, when we saw Chris Paul and guys sort of doing this where they were like rookies and they were, succeeding and winning games, it's like we took it for granted that was going to be the course for everybody, which is rarely the case. So D'Angelo being given more freedom, well, what else do you really expect? The Lakers are not challenging anything or anyone, so you might as well just let the kid play and let him learn on the job and let the 19-year-old figure it out, because I figured that's the best chance for him to, mess up, clean up, learn, and do it all over again.
Yeah, it's funny that they Byron Scott has proven to handle D'Angelo Russell better than Moutier has been handled in Denver. And I said it, a point guard, and Brad brought it up, they need touches. They need touches. You can't always start them early on. Moutier was kind of thrown into the fire, and he hasn't progressed. He has not progressed. Bad shooting, which we kind of expected, but a turnover machine at times. Not the player that they thought when they were drafting him. I don't know, it was 6 or 7, whatever it was. Threw him to the fire too quickly. Not the right type of touches. Not going up against other teams, second teams enough. And we're seeing Russell now progress past him.
So is it possible that Scott, this holding back of these rookies, Russell this year and Clarkson last year, that this actually benefited these two players because we'll see them better in the long run because of this?
I mean, who knows? I really don't. They're in an environment where they're getting their asses kicked every day as well. So I mean, is that a good environment for them to learn from? I mean, who knows, right? I don't know. I know that D'Angelo is going to be the permanent starter now. I think, Gino, for the rest of the season, and that's fine. And good. Learn on the job, absolutely. But really, I think what benefits D'Angelo the most is he's going to make mistakes, and he can make mistakes blatantly in front of everyone, and nobody's going to care because everyone's waving at Kobe. So I think it's a really good scenario for him anyway. Right. And it could have started early on. Nobody would have cared. Nobody would have noticed because it's all about Kobe. And when they're on the road, if D'Angelo throws an air ball, you're not going to hear air ball from the crowd because they're going to be like Kobe the entire time. So it really is a great situation for Russell. I'd like to see him to get as many minutes as possible to try to just get up to the game speed of the NBA and the long season and see, how his stamina is going to kind of lead into next season after playing, 80 games or whatever he's going to be playing this season.
Well, plus the other thing that didn't help Russell is the fact that Porzingis just was so hot out of the gates.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. The kid in New York, I'm not sure if you've heard of him. The kind of player that little kids like to film themselves crying over and then turn around and get celebrated for it, that sort of stuff. But I think that in Russell's case, you know what? He's been carrying stuff all season long. It's called Kobe's farewell gifts. He's been carrying them to the team bus. He's been carrying them to the training center. I mean, he's been carrying it all season long. I mean, this guy's had opportunities to shine. He's had opportunities to sort of, learn from Kobe in the worst possible setting imaginable. I mean, look, the only thing that Russell has going for him right now is that he's not in Philadelphia. I think minus that, there really isn't a whole lot to celebrate here, but it is nice to see the young kid getting a chance to play. And it's nice to see Clarkson and Russell being given the opportunity to just go out there and learn on the job. Because I think that's where Scott, has failed essentially as a coach, and the GM has failed with this whole attitude about we're making the season about Kobe rather than making the season about transition. So I think that, if the Lakers aren't hot and aren't sort of figuring it out, as early as next season, then I think the Lakers only have themselves to blame because they really should have been advancing them sooner. And it's like, why wait till February to get them to play extended minutes? You should have been doing that back in December, and you don't know if they, could have figured things out sooner and developed chemistry and, you find things you like and let them beat up on some of these weaker teams and get some confidence and whatever. Because the last thing you want to do is have a guy second guessing himself in the pros. I just would like to have seen them do this a little earlier in the year. I mean, what good is it? It's like,
I think what's helped D'Angelo as well is that Jahlil Okafor's game has really kind of declined in this first year. So it doesn't really leave Russell as the glaring bust of that group, So Porzingis has elevated, Cat has elevated, but Jahlil is kind of stuck in this kind of weird place right now, and it does help kind of D'Angelo in his in the criticism and the ridicule. We got to get out of here though. We're way over time. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have our second half. It's the Full Court Report. Don't go way back after this.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoko.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It's halftime, and this is where we get a little casual talk going outside of basketball. I wanted to recognize that the Philippines, where you are right now, Gino, where I'm from, is celebrating a holiday today. It's EDSA Revolution Day, so it's kind of happy EDSA Revolution to many of the Filipinos who listen to our show and who are from there. I kind of wanted to jump off that and talk to you guys about holidays in our respective countries, holidays that kind of we don't expect big things, but oh man, if you just lived in our country, you got to know that this is a massive holiday in our, in our lands. Now, let me go first, just because I'm kind of introducing this. In the Philippines, you guys know that Holy Week, which is Easter Sunday and the few days prior to that, Black Thursday or Holy Saturday, Good Friday, and Holy Thursday. Yeah. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, leading up to Christmas leading up to Easter is like the most solemn holiday season of the year for us. I mean, it is malls shut down, no television, no radio, everything shuts down for Holy Week. It's such a big deal for us that we nail people to the cross on Friday.
Right.
We nail you guys.
You actually get people who reenact the crucifixion, right?
Yep. Yes, and they get nailed to the cross. I've had guys nailed in front of my house, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm a bad guy." I'm like, "Why are you?" Well, I've stolen in my life and this and that, but he's my neighbor. He's not really that bad of a guy. Nailed to the freaking cross. And this is summertime, right? So this is just imagine that Philippine summer, that humidity, the high temperature, guys up there. And I remember the first time I saw this, and I was probably maybe 7th grade or something, and I saw a guy getting nailed to the cross, and all of a sudden he started taking a dump on the cross because the pain was so much that he started defecating. And I was like, we celebrate this crap, and it's just it's amazing how
Mo, when you say celebrate this crap, do you mean pun intended?
Absolutely, yeah, totally pun intended. Good Friday is madness in our country.
Do they shut down the airlines as well, just the airport closed?
No, not that far. But as a radio DJ, as a TV host, nothing. We never take days off. Christmas, we're on air. Right. New Year's, we're on air. Every single time we're on air. The only time we're off air is Holy Week. Holy Week. Gotta be off.
Yeah, that's the only one. Holy Week is the only one that we get time off from
no television.
Work.
You see the color bars on TV. There's nothing's on.
Except for the cable channels. The cable channels are
because
the
they're out
only
of Singapore.
Yeah, but they just relayed via satellite. They don't really count. But
that's right. They're out of Singapore and all these other things. But Philippine stuff, nothing.
What's a little funny too? It falls in the same time as most spring breaks. So imagine how different those two are.
Sure, yeah, it's tough times.
Wait, so you're saying that you could either see a guy crucified, or you'll probably just see a guy crucified, because I think spring break actually has live crucifixions now. Isn't that what you do? You get wasted and then you just pin yourself to something.
And the wet T-shirt contests are very symbolic
as
well.
I was going to say something really inappropriate. But,
all right, wait. We're already halfway through our halftime. Let's hear about the other countries. What about you, Brad, in Australia? What's a big holiday that kind of goes under the radar for us?
Yeah, so I guess unless you're from Australia, you probably don't celebrate or know even about what we refer to as Anzac Day, which is a celebration, which is a solemn celebration actually from World War I, when we had troops invade Gallipoli. Basically, everyone's up at 5 a.m. for dawn services, flowers and wreaths all over the place.
Damn. No way.
And then everyone gets absolutely plastered in gambles. So it's one of those really, really odd occasions where it's really sad, and you remember the sort of people who laid down their lives for our country's independence, or independence as part of the monarchy, but then you end up just getting wasted, and by midday you're asleep again because you've been up since 4 a.m. But hey, it's the Australian way. We drink on every occasion, whether it's
and you do it too. You do it as well. I mean, it's still a hip thing. People still follow it.
With my grandfather was a part of the naval services, and so I've been to a few services, and the Prime Minister does it. It's broadcast on every TV channel. It's one of those Anzac Days on the calendar, man, and it's a good day to either pay your respects or just get wasted. So either way.
Chris, what's a holiday in the U.S. that guys, who generally are not listening, who are not from the U.S. kind of not really know about how big it is?
Well, I know every country does a Thanksgiving, so we have our Thanksgiving fourth Thursday in November, and for us, it used to be a symbol of giving thanks, and the way this country was founded and type of giving thanks type of situation. Now it's the symbol of America in another way. It's gluttonous, is ode to capitalism and football. So it's people taking weeks to prepare their meal and then sitting down and gourding themselves with food and watching the NFL. And then where people would start their Christmas shopping that weekend or the next day. They do it now Thursday night while Thanksgiving is still going around to kick off the Christmas season. We all know Christmas season starts way before anyway. So gluttony, capitalism, and football, that's our Thanksgiving. And it's really changed in my lifetime.
I think Thanksgiving is the biggest holiday in the year for the United States. Bigger than
because it's our own solo holiday that every American celebrates. Obviously, every American celebrates it. Other ones are religious based or that type of thing.
Time's up here in a halftime. But Gino, do you have one just to even throw out that we could probably look up?
Well, just for the people who don't know, that the Christmas holidays in the Philippines start after Halloween and end right after or right before Chinese New Year. So that's
it's
October, end of October to February.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. Once you hit the Burr months, which is September 1st, in the malls, Christmas music for the next 4.5 months and decorations and everything. It's madness. I hate it. Drives me crazy. All right, anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have the second half of our show. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Hanson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import award?
I won Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you do?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How are you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
All right, back on the show. It is our second half, and we are going to New York City to talk to Chris Savage, who's got 12 minutes. And here in the third quarter, Chris, take it away, dude.
Boys, let's talk about the hottest team in the NBA, and it's not the Golden State Warriors. It's the team that mollywopped the Golden State Warriors behind the Lilliputian leader, Damian Lillard's 51 points, and I'm talking about the Portland Trail Blazers, a team that going into the season was labeled a rebuilding project, and now all of a sudden they're in the sole position of the 6th seed in the West. They've won 11 out of their last 12, and they're just been elevated by Damian Lillard's game. He's been strong all season long. This is a guy who got snubbed at the All-Star game, if you want to call it a snub. Trust me, you'd be naive to not think that he was thinking about being snubbed by Klay Thompson getting his last spot when he dropped 51 on the Warriors. But let's just talk about Lillard first. And here's the last 12 games. 28 points, 8 assists, less than 3 turnovers a game for a guy who handles the ball that little. That's ridiculous. 47 from the field, huge improvement from the rest of the year. He's going to the line, very Harden-esque, 8 times a game. That would be top 5 if he was doing it all season. Just tremendous numbers in the last 12 games to elevate his team. So dare I say it, superstar.
Didn't we say early on, like a couple episodes ago, that he's having a career year? Right.
And now he definitely is having a career year.
He's proving it.
So the Blazers in general, guys, they're in the 6th seed now. Gasol is going in Memphis. The Mavs are aging right in front of our eyes. Dysfunction in Houston. We don't know if Utah's for real. Can this team legitimately be considered a contender for the 5th seed? And what's their ceiling? What's their basement here? And talk to me about Lillard. I mean, do you want to call him a superstar? Let's hear about it.
I think he's a superstar.
Superstar is absolutely written, like set in stone, like engraved, whatever. That's rock solid. My question is, and this is going to be like a bit of a bolder question, and maybe even directed to Brad more than anybody, because we were talking a little Russell Westbrook early on the show and Kevin Durant. Is Damian Lillard better than Russell Westbrook? I mean,
wow.
No, and here we are. Wow. Wait, listen. It's a question. It's not a statement. I'll say why. I'll tell you what.
The numbers I just read you for 12 games, Westbrook has done all season. But go ahead, Brad.
Okay, well, no. Look, it doesn't matter. Westbrook last season had the same problem that Damian Lillard had this year, and guess where Damian Lillard is? Knocking on the door of the 5th seed. Where was Westbrook last season? At home. And this is these are two teams.
Too. He has McCollum.
They had Ibaka. They had a team that they ran with for a couple of years already.
He's your one. He's your one.
Listen,
okay.
hey,
You're one of
this
those
is the
guys.
first.
Double-doubles,
No.
Ibaka.
This is the first season that Lillard and McCollum have been playing heavy minutes. Or at least McCollum has been playing heavy minutes. So this is a learning on the job experience. Look who the hell's on this team: Noah Vonleh starting, Mason Plumlee, Al Farouk Amino. Alan Crabb, Maurice Harkless, Gerald Henderson. And Davis, this is not a 5 seed in the West. But you know why? You know why they are a 5 seed in the West? Damian Lillard, right?
No question. No
better
question. So
than Russell Westbrook?
Question, are they going to compete for the 5 seed? They're 6 seed now. Can they get the 5 seed? Do you think they can keep it? They're going to stay maybe not this hot, but at least near this hot to keep.
They're a playoff team. I never thought they were going to be a playoff team. I thought they were a pretender, but they're a playoff team, and it's because they have one of the best point guards in the NBA.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Mo, do me a favor. Mo, take a big, deep breath. Just relax for a second. And just remember 3 things, right? 3 things.
Yep.
Number one, Houston's super dysfunctional, and therefore
sounds like an excuse.
Advantage.
Sounds
Lillard's
like an
taking
excuse.
taking advantage of the dysfunction in Houston, right? Second of all, the Grizz have Gasol hurt. Now again, injuries play a part in the NBA storyline.
Portland's been around.
Is Portland better than the Grizzlies this year? Not a chance. But Portland's obviously had more health. And
sounds like an excuse number 2.
Lillard is playing out of his mind, and he did turn the middle finger up to the entire NBA and say, you want to leave me off the All-Star roster? Well, here's what I've got to say to that. It was one of the coolest, most fitting responses I've seen. But is he better than Westbrook? Not on this planet.
Oh, my God.
Is he on the same? Okay, listen. First of all, it's a question. Number 2, is he in the same level as Russell Westbrook? Because I'm only going with what your superstar is able to do with the team, and he's able to get them in the playoffs.
Let me answer it like this.
Go.
Here is my answer. You're saying Lillard is doing Westbrook things, not the other way around. And
no. Surpassing Westbrook things. Westbrook didn't take the Thunder to the playoffs last season. And come on. Listen, Dallas was in the playoffs. Dallas was in the playoffs last season. The Mavericks were in the playoffs last season. The Pelicans were in the playoffs last season. Guess who wasn't? Russell Westbrook.
Mo, this is just for you. I will go and ask Russ if he thinks Lillard's better than him. And we'll see what he says.
How did this turn into patting on the back of Damian Lillard, a discussion of patting on the back of Damian Lillard to give him some shine, playing all the way out in the Pacific Northwest, to just shitting on him because of the Russell Westbrook comparison? This is ridiculous. I want to give the guy shine, but you think
I'm letting him shine. Dude, Damian Lillard is taking an inferior team, and he's got them, again, knocking on the number 5 seed in the West. That is a massive accomplishment. That is superstar written all over it. That is amazing. Go.
Is this because he made Steph look mortal? Like, is part of this because he did it against Golden State?
Oh, yeah, good point. Brad, you're hitting on something. You're
listen,
such a nerd.
I even forgot. Listen, 8-day layoff. Of course, Golden State's going to come out a little off. But they're back.
You went there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Portland didn't have 8-day layoff either?
Oh, my God.
No.
That sounds like an excuse.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I learned from the best.
He said to Klay Thompson, you want that all-star spot? Like Brad said, middle finger, 51.
Who cares about the all-star spot when you got a team as garbage as Portland and the number 5 seed in the West? F you for the all-star spot. It's about proving a point. This is about proving a point to the NBA that, hey, excusez-moi.
Also, there are circumstances that why they're knocking on the 5th spot. We already went over them. Brad already went over them. Russell Westbrook did not have the same circumstances last year and did not have McCollum type of share scoring with him. If we're really going to make this comparison, it's ridiculous they're making this comparison. Damian Lillard's having a great 12-game stretch, a great season, career year. He's not a superstar, even though he's an all-star snub. But let's not get out of hand here.
Yeah, he's a super. No, I'm enjoying your conversation. I really
because
am.
I'm right. Because I'm right.
No. Well, because first of all, he is a superstar now. But the thing is, you're talking about Russell Westbrook, who's an MVP candidate. I don't think that he's in that level yet. I mean, he's right a notch below it, but he's.
All you see is the heart. That's why. All you see is the heart.
Yes, the heart.
But come on,
I'm talking about the standings, man. The standings.
We can't. I guess let's not tarnish what Damian Lillard has done here by comparing him to an MVP candidate or or people who would build a franchise around.
Tarnishing? I don't. What are you guys? Are you delusional?
In this discussion,
tarnishing?
You're trying to make it an anti. You're trying to make it for us to go anti on Damian Lillard by propping him up too much, and that's not fair. That's just not fair. How dare you?
Because you guys are weak.
Right. So let's just respect what Lillard did and all agree that it was just phenomenal against the Warriors, and he's been on a tear. And look, if he can help carry this Portland team, into the 5th seed, 6th seed even, man, what an incredible season. And the NBA, which loves to sort of prop Lillard up, and he's kept Portland on the map. I think that, obviously he deserves all the credit we're giving him. I mean, maybe we should start opening the show with more Lillard talk because
Dame Dollar. We should play Dame Dollar music leading off into the show. Dame Dollar. What a year for Lillard.
I really think that they can make it to the 5th spot. I mean, you look at the teams.
They will.
I mean, Memphis,
Memphis
Dallas,
of course
Utah.
What is Matt Barnes? What is Matt Barnes going to continue to carry Memphis? He scored 25 tonight. That ain't going to happen too often. PJ Hairston, he's a real solid guy.
They're going to make it to the 5th spot, and they're going to push the Clippers in the 1st round. How about that?
Yeah, well, the Clippers have their own issues too. That's a good point. But guys, let's shift over. We kind of beat this dead horse. I'm going to go over to Charlotte. Let's talk about the Hornets, a team that keeps on hanging around the playoffs race, AC now. Despite their loss to Cleveland tonight, they're 6-2 this month. They've won 10 of their last 14. Kemba Walker, of course, has led the way. He's their number one option. 24 points a game during that stretch. He's shooting over 40% from three-point land. But it's not just Kemba. During this stretch, well, first of all, they beat the Cavs earlier in the month without him. During that stretch, they have a balanced attack. 7 different guys have scored 20 points. They're, I think, 9th and 10th or 10th in bench scoring. So, overall, they're just very, very well balanced in getting the job done. They did lose MKG, but they got back Al Jefferson, and I think the Courtney Lee trade it'll be a good fit for them at least this season. So, are you guys buying? Kemba Walker being the number one option on the playoff team, and the Hornets staying, making it to the playoffs this year? You guys buying that?
I can. I like this Hornets team. I think they're young. I think they have some good pieces. I love Nicholas Batum, and I think he's kind of like their Draymond Green type player.
Oh no! What?
He's that type of player. I'm not saying I'm not comparing him to Draymond skill wise, but he is that. He's their Draymond. So. I really do like the pieces on this team. I don't think that they'll make much noise in the postseason, but I think that they definitely can make the push. Of course, it depends also on what happens with the other teams in the Eastern Conference, specifically Detroit, because I think Detroit has improved a lot as well.
Right, and the Charlotte Hornets continue to improve now that they're putting the roster in place. Kemba Walker, throughout his career, is now progressing. I think this guy, he was a kind of a fringe All-Star, if you will. I mean, he wasn't snubbed in any way. This is a guy, especially with the All-Star game in Charlotte next year, I can see him being an All-Star. I think he is a legit number one on a lower seed playoff team.
So Chris, is he the poor man's Kyle Lowry right now? I mean,
I don't want to compare anyone to anyone at this point because it's just going to start tarnishing names at this point. I don't want to compare anyone to Draymond Green or Westbrook. I'm good with that.
Here's the thing that I really like about Kemba's game, and he's shown this throughout his entire basketball career, whether it was in college, whether it's been in the pros. He's a big game player, and I like the fact that he has the ability to sort of show up when it matters most. The fact that he's carrying this Hornets team, which I wrote off a month ago thinking they were on a bad slide. I thought they had no chance of getting back into the playoff picture. They're clearly hot now. Good for them. It's good to see them back in there. I think it's good for the NBA that Charlotte's a winning franchise. Those teal uniforms and everything about their rebranding, for me, is just magic. So, I don't want to see it happen at the expense of Detroit. But if that's got to be the case, then, maybe Charlotte pushes Cleveland in the opening round more than Detroit possibly can. And maybe, Kemba and these guys kind of figure out a way. But am I buying the Charlotte Hornets? I'm only buying them if they're coming at a discounted rate. I'm not paying full price for Charlotte just yet.
Nice. Get them cheap on the dollar, man. I like to hear that.
Yeah, I know we got to wrap it up here in the third, but I'm as much as I want Charlotte to succeed, I just don't know how you're going to kind of keep the Pistons out of the playoffs. I think Pistons are going to be there, man. The Wizards might even be kind of right there as well. So I want the Hornets to be there. I don't see how you're going to let a push from the Pistons and the Wizards kind of keep you guys in the playoffs.
Sorry, Wizards
unless the Hawks fall.
Wizards don't deserve it.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we have the fourth quarter. You listen to the Full Court Report. Back after this on Go Away.
a Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is fourth quarter action now, and I have point guard duties, 12 minutes on the clock, and I want to talk about some of these pretender teams. Now, listen, rarely do I ever say something incorrect. I mean,
Go ahead.
Wow. But I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Yeah. I called these teams who are currently in the playoff hunt pretenders, like Dallas. I said, no way Dallas is able to sustain their kind of success. Well, you know, they're fluttering a little bit. I think they've lost 6 out of the last 8, including tonight against the Thunder, but they're still right there in the 7th seed. I've called Utah hopeless and no chance that they're going to make the playoffs. I've said Portland has no chance of making the playoffs. I said Charlotte the same, and Indiana. All those teams are just right about there. Right. When you guys said, should we hit the panic button with Houston? I said, of course not. That's the Rockets, man. They're going to be fine. And, of course, they're awful. I've said the same about Washington. I thought Washington was going to be a big playoff team. So, again, there have been kind of hit and misses there, but that's what's fun about, you know, making these kind of statements.
Just misses.
Well,
I've hit a couple times. Yeah, so no, listen. It takes a big man to say when he's wrong. Okay, so give me this. So I've been wrong on a couple of things.
5'4", and he's still a big man.
I like how he runs off a shopping list of mistakes and then says I've been wrong a couple of times.
Well, no. He also hedged. He said, "But they're still fluttering, so they still could miss." He still hedged his incorrect ones.
I could probably get this one right. But here's what I want to ask: of the pretender teams, the teams that really aren't expected to do much, that are right there, very rather successful considering their roster, which ones are we really taking seriously here? Let me kind of throw out a couple of names here, and you tell me, yeah, this is a serious playoff team. And let's start with Dallas. Losers of 6 of 8, but still right there in the number 7 seed. Brad, you're in Dallas tonight. You saw them up close and personal. What's the deal here? Are they going to hold a playoff position by, hold a strong playoff position here in the second half?
Well, I think they really need to sort of start to worry about the Pelicans, and if they get a little bit of steam, things might not work out in their favor. Dallas's big problem is they're playing 3 point guards in Barea, Felton, and Harris all at the same time. Dirk's 40 years old, and although he had a great night tonight, I just don't see him doing that on the regular. They sort of still don't quite know what their rotations and their, sort of closing lineup is. Deron Williams is great sometimes, but not great other times. And I think if you're relying on the players that I've mentioned to sort of get you not only into the playoffs, but to sort of be competitive in a first-round series against one of those sort of top 3 teams, I think Dallas has to look at this like, man, they got some sort of soul-searching to do in this offseason. And, Dirk really doesn't need help, and Cuban needs to figure out a way to sort of make this team function a little better on the floor and have a little bit better chemistry. And, I really don't think having 4 point guards on the roster as they currently do is a wise move, because only one guy can handle the ball. And if the other 3 aren't dead-eye shooters, I mean, we forget Wesley Matthews is there, and he's done a whole lot of nothing this year, and he's their highest paid player. So they brought in David Lee. He's not the answer to anything. If you're asking questions and David Lee's the answer, I'm sorry, you need to go back and study those textbooks a little harder, because I don't see how David Lee's going to really help this team at this point of this season. So Dallas, they could slide. They could easily slide, or they could maintain the course and be a 7th or 8th seed and then get bounced in the first round.
Hey, way to sit on that fence, Brad.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you: anybody here think Dallas is for real, and this is going to be?
Listen, I'm gonna stick with this old rusty ship until it falls into the ground, because I said earlier they're going to hold up in the playoff team, and I heard no, they're too old, and now they're starting to show that age in front of us. I still think they'll hold on. Again, I think Houston's too dysfunctional. I don't know what to make of the Jazz. I can't even call it. And then the Kings and the Pelicans, I don't know. It's kind of a late push, maybe, but I'm going to stick with the Mavs and say they're going to hold on.
Yeah,
I agree. I disagree, but yeah, let me ask you, Gino. Go ahead.
I think that they're going to hold on to this. They're going to make the playoffs, and I just think that the experience that they have with the same players that Brad mentioned, even though you can't count on them on winning a series, but I think that if with those guys, I think they will be able to maintain the playoff spot.
Right. Boy, they have a fine coach, but I said that they were going to fall. I'm going to stand by it. I think they're going to fall. When the the marathon comes to an end, and these old men are winded. Boy, this is where we
Dallas
see
could easily be the 9th team and just miss out because it got hot late in the last couple of weeks of the season. Utah might be the team that we're discounting and probably doing it at our own peril. They've kind of had some good games. I know Hayward had a good game, and obviously they stopped Houston from getting that win in overtime, which was kind of good to see. They're an interesting team, as are the Kings. And I think we're seeing a couple of, maybe it's a changing of the guard in many ways. Like maybe the Pelicans, Kings, and Jazz are actually going to be surefire playoff teams next year because I think they're starting to come into their own. They're starting to develop. Maybe they overachieved this year, but, like Houston and Dallas, who have been mainstays for the last 3 or 4 years, it finally looks like those wheels are wobbling and maybe going to fall off. And, maybe it isn't time to build a franchise around Dirk and, Dwight Howard. Maybe their time is up and, maybe it's time for them to step aside and let the young kids come in and sort of tear it up.
So anybody think here the Jazz are going to make the playoff? Obviously 7-3 in the last 10, so a little bit of a surge. No true, real superstar, I think, on that team. There are some solid front court guys like Derek Favors, of course, Rudy Gobert, but no point guard whatsoever around there. No Exum, no Bird.
Well, Mo, let me offer some genuine basketball talk here, which I'm going to do, for the first time in a long time. They just don't have an ability to score when they need to in the fourth. In terms of they dump the ball down to Favors. And I just don't like him being their sort of only offensive option. I just don't think that's smart basketball in this day and age. I think they need to have more spacing, more shooters, and they need to sort of work.
Second best defense, though. Second best defense in the West. Does that count for something?
No. They can stop guys. But they're not comfortable getting their own, or they're not getting it at the other end easily enough for my liking to say that they're going to be a team that can close it out, over the course of March and April.
I really like Favors a lot. I've said it before. I really like him a lot. Very efficient player, very strong player. If Gobert's in the lineup, he's even more effective. Hayward's the guy who I just can't put my finger on. Never have been. The streakiness, the bad field goal percentage at times. Yet last year he was lights out at times. Even parts of this year. I mean, it really comes down to him. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs because I don't think he's a type. I don't think he's the type of player who's gonna hold up and be big when they need him to be.
If Gordon Hayward is your go-to guy, and I've seen him step up. I've seen him hit some buzzer beaters.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he's got it in his veins, but can he hit it?
He does.
But I just don't think that if he is the only option that you have when it comes to those moments, that I don't think that they'll be able to hold on to this spot. I think he's like a second. He's like a second fiddle for me. Go ahead.
But Houston has the guy in Harden. Harden's a guy who can do all the things that we want Hayward to do, but it's not like Houston's winning. So because you have that kind of player doesn't actually mean too much right here and right now in the Western Conference.
Well, that's true, but because the Jazz are more functional than the Rockets. I think the Rockets are just so dysfunctional that it doesn't matter what pieces they have there, that they're just
Harden can put up 40 and they still lose.
They're gonna figure out a way to lose.
I see Utah making it into the playoffs. I think defense. I mean, they say it wins championships, but at the same time, I think they're growing together, and we saw them be an elite defensive team last year, and now they're kind of really translating it into some kind of success. Now, there are teams knocking on the door, as we've said, like Sacramento and the Pelicans, but they're not going to replace Utah. I think they're going to be replacing Memphis and Dallas.
I mean, but Houston could be the one who replaces them. I mean, we still have James Harden in Houston's in the 9th spot.
Sure. All right, well, let's move on. Let's kind of get an East team out here. Indiana. We sang their praises early on in the season, man. Paul George, wow, superstar, all that stuff. And then we kind of saw them fall a little bit. Now they're just a little that maintain stage. Currently in the number 5 seed, but not a lot of help there for Paul. Monte Ellis, sure, but how about anyone else think that this is going to be a legit playoff team?
Legit in the playoffs or legit to make the playoffs?
Legit to make the playoffs.
Oh yeah, they'll make the playoffs because of Paul George's ability. I don't think there's a question. In the playoffs, I don't think they're gonna do so high. I think they're a one and done team.
Here's the thing, Mo. Chicago and Atlanta are more confusing than Indiana right now.
100%. 100%.
Absolutely.
So at least Indiana, you know what you're going to get. You know they've got weapons. They're hard to stop, but at least they're, maybe their predictability is the best thing they've got going for them right now. George is going to get you big numbers and carry this team, into the playoffs, maybe as a 7th or 6th seed. But until Chicago and Atlanta figure out exactly where they fit into the picture, it's hard to predict where Indiana actually lands because both teams are actually superior talent-wise, but both teams are underperforming. And so you talk about pretenders, man. Indiana, I think, actually looks like a playoff lock. Those other two teams, who the hell knows?
Yeah, and don't forget the health issues of the Heat as well.
Well, I mean, we had the Bulls. The Bulls,
too,
but the Bulls don't have their best player, and he's one of the best players in the NBA. And Jimmy Butler, he'll be back in 2 weeks, though. So, are we hitting? And I know we made fun of each other when we said the word panic button out, and when we kind of early on into the season. Let's pull out that panic button right now. Let's finally kind of see if it's worth pushing. Is there a panic button situation going on in Chicago? I'm still going to hold my ground and say no. When they get Jimmy Butler back in a few weeks, this is still absolutely. Even with the Hawks, I think struggling a little bit in the last 10 games, 4-6, but still a formidable team that's definitely going to have a playoff spot.
We do this all the time with the Bulls. I'm not hitting the panic button either, but we do this all the time every 2 weeks. It's, oh my God, what do we do about the Bulls? Hoiberg, this, Butler, Rose. It's every 2 weeks now. So I don't know what to make of this team either. They'll be in the playoffs, especially if Bosch is not available for the Heat, which is sad to hear if it does happen. But they're going to be in the playoffs. But again, no panic button, but we do this every 2 weeks. It's like, what's the deal with the Bulls?
Chicago,
no one knows.
look, I think the sort of satisfactory punishment for Chicago is if they make the 7th seed and get swept in the first round, I'm cool with that. Like, let Toronto just spank them this year.
We are the North.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of think maybe Chicago just needs a real wake-up call, and they need to figure a few things out, and maybe them getting a low seed after everyone thought they were the second-best team in the East. And then maybe Butler sort of kind of being in and out of the lineup sort of exposes how one-dimensional they may actually be. Of course, Noah's not there either. But a few of these guys are actually up for contract renewals. And I think Chicago could look completely different next year. And I think maybe it's time that they do look completely different because, they're just not showing us enough stability because we shouldn't be every 2 weeks saying, oh, my God, they're incredible. Oh, my God, what a disappointment. It's just teams don't fluctuate this much and go on to contend.
Hey, Mo, can we hit the panic button for the Spurs losing home court advantage in the Western Conference Finals? Panic button! It's over, Spurs!
All right. Sorry, Gino, you were about to say something, and then I'll kind of close this one up.
No, I think the Pacers are locks to make the playoffs. I think that the Bulls, the Hawks are the one that's really strange to me. I mean, they had a little bit of a strange situation when they were shopping their stars around, come trade deadline, and they didn't, and then maybe that's affected them a little bit.
You know what should have happened, Gino? You know what really should have happened? The Thunder should have traded for Horford.
Oh. How about that?
Ooh,
for who?
Nice.
For who? Well, let's just throw it out there. For who? Who would you give it up?
Adams, you throw in Adams and Cantor, and you bring in Horford.
Wow.
Actually, that's well thought out, Brad. That's nice.
Yeah, you were thinking about this.
I made the phone call, man. No one picked up.
You were playing Sam Presti.
Presti.
But that's a trade that makes sense. That would have been nice. That would have been
Presti.
That would have put
no way in hell Atlanta does that trade. But all right, fair enough.
Sure.
Let's take a break.
I'd be surprised.
All right, well, no, we're not taking a break. We're actually ending it here right now. Quarter's over, guys. I want to throw it around the room. And before we wrap it up, give out your social media accounts. We'll want to thank our listeners, by the way. And please, don't forget, follow Full Court Report on Twitter. Let's go to you, Gino, first in Manila.
My Twitter handle and Instagram handle is @GinoRufino, JINNORUFINO. And if I sound a little strange, I apologize. I think all the travel and the fatigue has finally set in. And it's catching up.
No worries. Brad, in Dallas tonight.
Right, temporarily in Dallas. I'll be back in Oklahoma City on the weekend where the Warriors will play the Thunder. You can follow me at @BackpackBaller, and I'll try and post some pics from tonight's game and the weekend's game. And if you like the pics, retweet them, share them around, do whatever you want to do there. Obviously free for anyone to do with them as they see fit.
Don't forget to ask Russ my question about
I will ask Russ. I will ask him about Lillard. Don't worry.
And
I'll get a really
dirty
look from him, and everyone else in the media circle will laugh at me.
That's right. Thank you.
But say your Mo Twister.
Yeah, Chris in New York. Chris.
Yes, as always, @NotBillWalton. And, I used to think my Twitter account was pretty good until Mo compared it to Russell Westbrook, so now I'm not so sure.
That's right. All right. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @DJMoTwister. It's nice to be back here on the show, everyone. We thank you for continuing to look for it. I mean, we had a lot of messages. Hey, when's the new Full Court Report episode coming out? Again, but with all the travel and all that stuff, we ask you to forgive us.
Right?
That we're totally back. And, it should be good times as we get close to the end of this NBA season. So let's see you guys on Sunday night. Thanks for listening. Thanks for interacting. And, for Chris, for Gino, and Brad, this is Mo. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.